Once upon a time, there was a determined young man named Zhang Chi, who, despite his financial struggles, used his incredible talent and unwavering dedication to transform a dilapidated car into a roaring racing machine. From a tender age, Zhang Chi was captivated by the world of car racing. His fascination began when his family acquired their first color television. Watching a thrilling Hong Kong rally race, he was astounded by the sheer speed at which cars could travel. The following year, driven by his newfound passion, he secretly left his hometown to witness the race in person. As a car zoomed past him, Zhang Chi knew that racing was his destiny. Through relentless hard work, Zhang Chi rose to become one of the top rally racers in his country. He conquered the most challenging track in China, Bayanbulak, winning there 5 consecutive times. His victories made him a national sensation, but unforeseen circumstances forced him to step away from the racing scene. Now Zhang Chi leads a humble life as a single father. When his beloved son, Zhang Fei, expresses his dream of seeing his father race again, Zhang Chi resolves to return to the track. To reclaim his racing license, Zhang Chi must clear his name of past accusations. Donning his old racing jumpsuit, he heads to the Automobile Association for a hearing. News of his return spreads quickly, drawing a crowd of reporters eager to see the once famous racer. Zhang Fei is overwhelmed with pride, realizing his father's enduring fame despite a 5-year hiatus. Before the hearing, Zhang Chi addresses the media, expressing his frustration with their unfair and sensationalized reports that tarnished his reputation. Determined to restore his honor, he faces the association. In a dramatic twist, Zhang Chi's jumpsuit triggers the security scanners, forcing him to strip down in front of the reporters, adding to his humiliation. Despite this setback, he stands before the association and recounts the incident that led to his suspension. After Zhang Fei's birth, Zhang Chi was lured into an illegal off-track race by a mysterious figure. Now he is ready to clear his name and reclaim his place in the racing world, driven by his son's admiration and his own unyielding spirit. Once upon a time, a determined challenger vowed to cover all the living and schooling costs for a little one, prompting the skilled driver Zhang Chi to accept the offer. The association's leader believed Zhang Chi had already served his 5-year penalty, allowing him to race again if he passed the driving and physical tests. The chairman also warned Zhang Chi to brace for intense competition, as a young racer named Lin Zhendong had claimed the top spot in his absence. Upon returning home, Zhang Chi's first move was to call his old co-driver Yuqiang, who was now working at an amusement park. Zhang Chi rushed to meet him, mistakenly hugging a dinosaur mascot that turned out to be Yuqiang's wife. The couple had been doing odd jobs since Zhang Chi's racing career ended. Yuqiang eagerly agreed to join Zhang Chi and quit his job on the spot. When asked about the car assembly progress, Zhang Chi sheepishly admitted he didn't have a car yet. 5 years earlier, someone had left a baby in Zhang Chi's car. He contacted his ex-girlfriend to find out who the mother was, but never got an answer. In his frustration, he participated in an illegal race, losing his license and reputation. Without a degree, he sold his belongings one by one, and eventually opened a fried rice stand to support himself and the child. 2 years later, a paternity test revealed that Zhang Fei wasn't his son. Despite the shock, Zhang Chi, being kind-hearted, decided to keep the baby he had grown attached to. The next day, Zhang Chi went for his driving test. The instructor, already biased against him for his speeding history, challenged him to go full speed. Zhang Chi revved the engine, but the car fell apart, leading the instructor to fail him. Meanwhile, Lin Zhendong, the current champion, was thriving with numerous sponsors and top-notch cars. He believed his success came from his dedication to racing and was on the lookout for a worthy competitor. Lin Zhendong kept tabs on Zhang Chi, the only champion he hadn't defeated. Determined, Zhang Chi returned for the driving test the next day. He apologized to the instructor and offered to pay for the damaged engine, giving double its price. The greedy instructor accepted, and within a week, Zhang Chi's racing license was reinstated. He celebrated with Yuqiang, but their joy was interrupted by the arrival of Lin Zhendong. Zhang Chi invited Lin Zhendong to his home for a calm discussion, but Lin couldn't stop flaunting his riches and talents. He constantly highlighted Zhang Chi's flaws, calling him outdated. Despite this, Lin Zhendong still wanted to race against Zhang Chi to prove to everyone that no one could surpass him. He even offered to help Zhang Chi secure sponsors, but Zhang Chi confidently claimed he had plenty of good connections. He called Yuqiang Yuqiang, and they went to meet their former sponsor, Manager Ye. Zhang Chi picked the finest car and began dreaming of racing again. Manager Ye noticed them and thought Zhang Chi had lost his mind due to stress. Zhang Chi explained he was just lost in his imagination, but Manager Ye could make it a reality. Zhang Chi wanted to renew the contract, but Manager Ye apologized, saying he couldn't rent a car to Zhang Chi because the sponsors didn't like him. Zhang Chi reminded Manager Ye that he had won 5 races for them and was ready to pay the full amount. With the race just 40 days away, it wasn't possible to find a new sponsor. Manager Ye still refused because his company had suffered losses when Zhang Chi was suddenly suspended. They didn't want to risk their stocks again. Poor Zhang Chi walked away with a long face, and Manager Ye started feeling bad for him. He took them to the warehouse where the frame of the last car they drove was. Manager Ye allowed Zhang Chi to sneak in at night and take the frame. At least he would have something to start with. Later that night, Zhang returned with Yuqiang and his son to take the car. Unfortunately, they were caught by the security guard, who called the other staff members. Zhang Chi pleaded with the guard to let him go, explaining his complicated story and asking to be considered a garbage collector looking for junk cars. Suddenly, a mechanic named Jixing stepped forward and supported Zhang Chi. He also left the company to help Zhang Chi repair the car. Jixing used to be part of Zhang Chi's racing team and always fixed the car no matter how badly it crashed. Zhang Chi asked why he hadn't been promoted yet, and Jixing recalled an unfortunate incident where he was crushed under a car while repairing it, breaking his arm and retiring from the front line. Jixing wanted to start building the car right away and asked Zhang Chi about the budget. Unfortunately, Zhang Chi had only saved enough to buy a third-class engine. They needed at least 1 million to construct a basic racing car. Zhang Chi volunteered to take care of the money, so Jixing started listing all the equipment they needed. The next day, Zhang Chi and Yuqiang began looking for sponsors. They found a wealthy writer and pretended to be his VIP fans. Zhang Chi asked the writer to sponsor them or help them find another sponsor. However, the writer recognized Zhang Chi as an illegal driver and ordered his secretary to kick them out. Later that night, Yuqiang took Zhang Chi to a secret gambling center to find more wealthy individuals. Unfortunately, the gambling business was as unsuccessful as Zhang Chi. All the employees at the center were too drunk to help themselves. Zhang Chi tried calling every businessman he knew, but they were all conveniently on vacation or avoiding him. His career seemed doomed, but he was desperate for one last victory. Yuqiang, too, yearned for an adventure. His life had always been dull, with no exciting stories to share. He felt purposeless, never having done anything extraordinary. He hadn't excelled in school, won a fight, or even made a girl fall for him. The only time he felt alive was in a race car. While Zhang Chi had many stories but needed a happy ending, Yuqiang had none. Yuqiang suggested they go on TV and play the sympathy card. Zhang Chi was hesitant, but eventually agreed. They joined a reality show where contestants had 1 minute to pitch their goals and find a sponsor. Zhang Chi planned to dramatically pull up his jumpsuit while sharing his dreams, but when he got on stage, he was shocked to see that today's sponsor was Lin Zhendong. Panicking, Zhang Chi fled the stage. Yuqiang reminded him of their struggles and urged him to swallow his pride. Zhang Chi returned to the stage, nervously sharing his goals. When he tried to pull up his jumpsuit, the zipper got stuck and he ran out of time, falling backstage. Lin Zhendong thought Zhang Chi was too proud to ask for money and had come just to share his story. Zhang Chi failed to secure a sponsor and looked for other options. Suddenly, Manager Ye called for a meeting, giving Zhang Chi hope. But the next day, his hopes were dashed when he learned Manager Ye had been fired. Manager Ye met Zhang Chi to give him the computer board from their old race car, wished him luck, and left to enjoy retirement. With no options left, Yuqiang found a shady gangster who owned a private club. Zhang Chi explained everything and begged for sponsorship. The gangster agreed to give $1 million, but demanded that his girlfriend's name be on Zhang Chi's jumpsuit during the race. He also wanted to see them dance and sing. Zhang Chi sang the only song he knew while Yuqiang performed a bizarre dance. Surprisingly, the gangster loved it and handed over the money. In just a few days, Zhang Chi's car was built and delivered to the racetrack for a test run. After 5 long years, he was finally behind the wheel of a race car again. The championship was fast approaching, and all the contestants were heading to the venue. Zhang Chi flew with his son, while Yuqiang drove their car by road. Yuqiang called Zhang Chi, bubbling with excitement. Lin Zhendong was using his latest car for the race, but Yuqiang believed their determination would triumph over Lin Zhendong. Suddenly, Yuqiang lost control of the truck and it rolled over. Though Yuqiang wasn't seriously injured, the race car was completely wrecked. Jixing inspected the vehicle and declared it irreparable for the next day's race. Yuqiang suggested begging the sponsor for more money to buy spare parts from other teams, but Zhang Chi knew Jixing couldn't fix the car overnight. The championship manager asked Zhang Chi to sign the withdrawal form, as there was no spare car and the co-driver was injured. Lin Zhendong observing from a distance, approached to check on Zhang Chi. With no hope left, Zhang Chi decided to give up. He felt it was time to step out of the fantasy world and let others succeed. He hadn't raced in 5 years, and it seemed his time was over. But Lin Zhendong thought otherwise. Zhang Chi didn't realize how much technology had advanced in his absence. What seemed impossible before was now achievable. Lin Zhendong offered to help rebuild Zhang Chi's car. Jixing worked through the night, and by morning, the race car was ready for a champion. Fans from around the globe gathered to witness the Bayanbulak Rally, the pinnacle of Chinese car racing. The rally's unique charm lay in its drivers, who possessed exceptional car control skills, challenging themselves and their cars on perilous mountain cliffs without any protection. The rally cars departed every 5 minutes, meaning the drivers couldn't see each other, only the road ahead. The driver who completed the track in the shortest time would win the championship. 6 rescue helicopters and 13 ambulances were on standby for emergencies, but the drivers still faced immense risks. Alongside Lin Zhendong and Zhang Chi, many renowned drivers participated in this year's championship. With Yuqiang injured, Zhang Chi would compete without his co-driver, making him the loneliest driver on the track, a first in rally racing history. The racetrack began with dense forests, leading to towering mountains where cars could plummet from dizzying heights. Additionally, the weak signals in the mountains meant drivers couldn't communicate with their teams. Lin Zhendong was the first to depart, aiming to beat his own record from last year. Zhang Chi followed, staying in touch with Yuqiang and Jixing, who guided him through blind spots and cheered him on. Zhang Chi felt insecure about his old-fashioned driving style, but Yuqiang urged him to keep going, reminding him that one only becomes outdated when they stop believing in themselves. The race was broadcast live worldwide, and fans were anxious about the slippery track conditions. Despite this, many contestants were performing better than last year, with a chance that someone might finish the race in under an hour, a historic feat. In their excitement, several drivers lost control and crashed into trees, while others were blocked by mountain sheep. Another driver suffered damage and fell behind due to repair time. One by one, drivers were eliminated, leaving only 3, including Lin Zhendong and Zhang Chi. Reaching the most perilous part of the track, the third driver lost control and fell off a cliff, his car tumbling down as fans prayed for his safety. Zhang Chi felt immense pressure, having lost contact with his team. He recalled his days as an instructor, teaching young drivers that rally racing was about taking risks without expecting second chances. Every mistake could ruin a career. Success required money, skilled technicians, a great car, and the ability to drive at full speed on the world's most dangerous roads. Devotion was the key to victory. Zhang Chi was just seconds behind Lin Zhendong. The co-driver warned Lin Zhendong of a sharp rock ahead, but Zhang Chi, with no one to guide him, damaged his car on the rock. Emergency alarms blared, but Zhang Chi couldn't stop now. Lin Zhendong risked everything, finishing the race 2 seconds under an hour, even as his engine caught fire. All other players were disqualified except Zhang Chi. All eyes were on the finish line. Yuqiang urged Zhang Chi to slow down, warning he wouldn't be able to brake in time. But Zhang Chi was focused solely on winning, speeding ahead. He beat Lin Zhendong by milliseconds but couldn't brake in time. His car soared off the cliff, flying through the air. Zhang Chi recalled all his struggles and closed his eyes in satisfaction. He might not survive, but he had proven himself a hero.